Hello everybody, it's Dustin Nulf with Keller Williams Realty's the Dustin Nulf team and the Full House LLC, Pittsburgh Property Management. Thanks again for joining me. So here's the deal. So I have all the respect in the world for Grant Cardone. Like, I really like his channel. I like what he's doing. I like what he's done. I think he has really good advice for investors, especially investors who have connections to get a lot of money, or they already have a lot of money. I don't necessarily think it's great advice for somebody who is just starting out in the real estate game and may be working 40 hours a week at a crappy job where they're not going to be able to make the kind of money that Grant Cardone's saying you need to make. So that's kind of like the disclaimer here at first. I do like Grant Cardone. You should watch his channel and learn some stuff from him, but there's other ways to go about building wealth, especially if you don't have $350,000 to invest right now. And if you watch his channel, you're gonna see that sort of stuff where he says, don't buy anything. Don't buy anything right now. You need to save up 350 grand and then you buy an 18 unit building or more. You have to buy big or go home. That's good advice for somebody who's just starting out and may not have the means to bring in that sort of income. There are other ways to go about it. So we're going to look at that here today. So thanks for joining me. Hey everyone, quick time out. So this video is pretty long. So what I'm going to do is, if you check the summary below, I'm going to have it chopped up. So I'm going to have starting points for each section, so you can go down there, and if you want to skip ahead, you can skip ahead to the section you want. Before we get started, give us a thumbs up. Please like this video, subscribe with a little subscribe button below, and hit the notification bell so you get notified of new videos as I post them. We're going to talk more about real estate investing, and we're going to talk more about real estate sales and wealth building. So if you're a fan of Grant Cardone, you'll know that he's constantly dumping on single family homes and small multifamily buildings. And he's telling you that you should save up $350,000 before you should even invest in any real estate at all. So if you're the average American, I would suggest two things here. We're going to look at starting with less money down, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about a deal that I purchased with hardly any money out of pocket. So Grant Cardone also doesn't believe that there's no such thing as no money down deals. Well, you can get no money down deals. You can get those usually in the downturn of the market, not during a seller's market, but during a strong buyer's market. And I'm going to talk about a deal that I picked up. Actually, I picked up a couple deals where I put very little money down and worked out seller financing and bought either single family or small multifamily properties that appreciated extremely quickly. So we're going to take a look at that. The other thing is, single family homes will work, and they're not, I mean, it's not a bad idea if you have planned correctly and you have calculated your numbers correctly and you have saved and put away a maintenance reserve. If you're just buying a single family home and you got no money in the bank and you don't put any money in the bank and you spend all the cash flow, then it's a freaking bad idea, okay? So that's why single family homes are a bad idea, and it's probably why Grant Cardone did not do so well whenever he bought single family homes, because he was probably spending the cash flow and didn't have a reserve built up, which is all well and good, because that happened to me, and it's probably happened to thousands and hundreds of thousands of other investors, and we're going to show you how to avoid that. So let's take a look here. So back to single family and small multifamily properties. The thing that Grant Cardone doesn't understand about those is that their value is based on a human emotion. It's based on human emotions. It's not based on income. Okay? So you can buy a property right now in a neighborhood where it may cash flow. It actually may cash flow. It could be a single family home and it's cash flowing. And you could buy it extremely cheap. In 10 years from now, that might become the next up and coming neighborhood where people are paying ridiculous prices for properties that don't make any sense to an investor. Okay? So there's areas like I'm in Pittsburgh right now. There's an area called Shady Side in Pittsburgh. It's one of the hottest areas in Pittsburgh, and you're hard pressed to find like a 3 to 5% cap rate. If you're buying something with 20% down right now at a 3% cap rate, it's negative cash flow. You're not cash flowing off of it. But investors are still buying there. They're buying there because everybody wants to freaking live there. So you can buy a property there and you can make a ton of money off of it because since I've been licensed in 10 years, the average price of a single family home there has gone up by like almost $200,000. Like the appreciation has been insane. So you can make a lot of money in equity even though you're negative cash flow. And in some scenarios, you might come with like 50% down instead of 20% down, so you can get positive cash flow on a property like that. Now, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, especially if you're looking to cash flow and you're not necessarily concerned with equity, but that's just an idea there. So I'm gonna show you actually one of the deals that I got and how the numbers work out for that. We're gonna take a look at that right now. So I bought this property. So I'm a real estate agent first, okay? And I'll tell you how I came across this property. I came across this property when I was prospecting for expired listings. So, and there's going to be links. There's links in this video below in the summary that will take you to my lead generation techniques and other videos and things like that. If you subscribe for coaching through my Patreon site, it's $10 a month for real estate sales coaching. This is just general coaching. We give you copies of like my expired mailer and things like that. So anyway, back to what we're talking about. So we send out mailers every morning to all the expired listings in the area. And then I'll call and prospect to expired and say, hey, I noticed your property didn't sell. I was wondering if you still wanted to sell it. And I came across this one property back when it was a strong buyer's market. It was after the 2008 financial downturn. I think it was like 2010 when I ran into this guy. So the market was just finally bottoming out in Pittsburgh. Like, we didn't get hit as hard, but it did, like, it was very stagnant here. For those couple years. So this guy called me and he said, you sent me this mailer. I want you to come look at this property and relist this property and get it sold. So I went and looked at this property and I took a look at it. I walked through it and I was like, man, I want to buy this property. It was kind of the first time that the light bulb went off in my head, and I thought I should just make this guy an offer instead of listing this property because I want to buy it. And I had a honest conversation with a guy. I believe that honesty is the best policy. So what I told him was, listen, if I put this thing on the market right now, I probably could get you like $35,000 or $40,000 for it. That's how cheap things were going back then. 35 or 40 grand after cost, you're gonna walk away with like $30,000 to maybe $35,000 when it's all said and done with. And then you might still owe on taxes or whatever. You might even be in the 20s. So how about this? How about I buy the property, I'll give you $4,000 down, so $4,000 out of my pocket, and then I'll pay you X amount of dollars per month. So I worked it out so he was going to be owner financing with kind of a mortgage term, but there was no written mortgage note. And we actually did a land contract, which was more beneficial for him because I didn't know what I was doing at the time. If I were to do it again, I don't think I would have done it land contract. I would have tried to actually close the deal and have him write up a mortgage note. But in any case, I ended up buying this property. I paid $25,000 for it. And this is how I pitched it to him. I said, I'll pay you $25,000 for the property. But the thing is I want a 10-year term on it, and I'll pay you, I think I was paying him like 6.5% interest or something like that. And I showed him over 10 years, he was going to walk away with something like $10,000 in interest. I can't remember what the actual number is, so don't freaking pull out a calculator and call me a liar, because I don't remember what it was. But this is what I showed him. So I'm going to pay you $25,000 for it. You're going to walk away with $10,000 in interest, and you're going to end up making $35,000 for it, which is what you'd make anyway if you just sold it outright. And I'll give you $4,000 right now that you can work with, and I'm going to be paying you. It was something like $378 a month or something was what the like mortgage type payment ended up working out to. So I'll pay you that monthly, but I'll take over everything. I got the water, I got the sewer, I got the taxes, trash removal, maintenance, everything. You have nothing to worry about anymore. It's my property. I'll deal with everything. So this dude's retired. He was like, well, that sounds good. I don't have to deal with the property anymore, and I'll make just as much money as I was when I was dealing with it. So, you know, he had tenants in there, and he was dealing with tenants, and he had to worry about maintenance and all that other stuff. So he was only walking away with a couple $100 a month and was all said and done. So this deal sounded pretty good to him. So we wrote it up and we did the deal. Now I had to go in and I had to put $7,000 into it. So, you know, the $4,000 down sounds good, but I also had to put $7,000 into it. So I got $4,000 down, and I'm going to put $7,000 into it to fix it up. And how I had to fix it up was, it was an up and down duplex, and the bottom floor didn't have a shower. Okay, it had like a powder room, but it didn't have a shower or bath, and it would make a nice efficiency apartment. Like, it was a nice sized setup. It just didn't have a shower. It also didn't have its own separate furnace. So I ended up putting a shower in. Like, there was this closet, so it's kind of perfect scenario. I could just have the plumbing run, put the shower in, and I also had to put a HVAC system in there. And I got a really good deal on this HVAC system. I paid like $4,000 for this guy to put in a used HVAC forced air furnace, and then he put in a brand new AC, and it was just all this one floor, so it was pretty easy for him to run the ductwork and stuff. So I paid about $4,000 for that. I paid about $3,000 for this guy to put a shower in, and then I put $4,000 down. So I'm in $4,000 plus $7,000. It's like $11,000. So I was in it for a total of $11,000, which is, you know, this wasn't as great of a deal as I thought it was going to be, but it still wasn't too bad. So I was in it for $11,000. I had bought it for $25,000, so I had like $21,000 that I still owed for the mortgage. So if you look at it, $25,000 plus 7. What's that? $32,000. So I ended up paying a total of $32,000 for this place, and only $11,000 was out of pocket. Now the cool thing is that once I put this shower in and I got it rented out, I was pulling in about $1,000 a month from it. So in the first year, like, the gross rents was higher than I paid for the place. So I was pulling in some nice cash flow on it. And then as time went on, I upped the rents in the upstairs. I cleaned that apartment up. Then when they went vacant, I pretty much put all the cash flow away. I wasn't using it. I was just putting it away, and I reinvested it in the property. So when the top tenants moved out, I rehabbed that place and cosmetically updated it, and then I got an extra like $200 a month for it. The downstairs, I cleaned the downstairs up. I painted it real nice. I put some new appliances in the kitchen when the first tenant left, and I got like an extra $50 a month for it or something. There's a storage area in the back. I ended up upping the rents on that and getting that rent out for storage. So I think right now I'm pulling in, I think $1,400 a month off this place. So for a place that I bought for, I got $32,000 pretty much, you know, into it. I'm grossing $1,400 a month. Okay, so now the cool thing is, and this is, you know, Grant Cardone is going to tell you that not to do this sort of stuff. But if you're just getting started out, you could buy a place like this, and then you could buy another one a couple years later, or maybe a year later, and then you could buy another one a couple years later. And if I would have known what I was doing, I would have been able to turn this over faster and buy more with it. So if you look at it, I ended up going and refinancing this property twice. The second time I did it, it appraised at something like $115,000. $115,000. I paid $25,000 for it. Okay, so that is the type of, you know, appreciation you can get, or equity gain you can get, when you buy in a neighborhood that turns over and becomes more popular. And that neighborhood is increasingly becoming more popular. So I'm hoping that in 5 more years it might be worth $200,000. So we'll see. And then the cool thing is that if you start and you're broke, now you got $11,000 wrapped into this. You only owe the guy 21 grand. If you were to refinance this for 110,000, where its ARV is 110, so ARV means after renovated value or after repair value. So let's say it's worth $110,000. A bank will give you up to $88,000 for it as far as a refinance goes. And if you only owe 21, you'll get $67,000 in cash at the closing table to work with. So they give you $67,000, and now you got a new mortgage on the place. Your dude gets paid off. So I did owner financing. He gets his 21 grand, and he's paid off. And I actually owned the place outright, and I got $67,000 in cash in my hand. Well, now I took 11 grand and turned it into 67,000, so I got my money back. So if you look at what I got invested in it, I made $56,000 in equity. Okay, so I made myself 56 grand, right? Well, now you start looking at, when we first started talking about this, Grant Cardone saying you need $300,000. Well, $300,000 seems like a big number for the average Joe. But if you do a couple of these deals, how many deals you got to do? You got to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 7 of these deals to get your $300,000. So you could do, get started with single family homes and do stuff like this. Do 7 of those, and now you got $350,000, and you could buy yourself an 18 unit or 30 unit or whatever the hell Grant Cardone bought. So that's step number 1. Start with less money down. You got to find a deal, though. Okay, you have to be out there looking at deals, and you got to be making offers. Go out and look at a deal, know what it's worth, make an offer for less than it's worth. Okay, I told this guy it was worth 35 to 40. I offered him 25. I bought it for less than it was worth to begin with. All right, so that's when you make your money going in. You hear an investor say make your money going in. That's what they mean. Or buy it right. You'll hear investors say buy it right. Buy it right means buy it for under market value. Okay, buy it for cheaper than it's worth. All right, so the other thing is single family homes will work. So step number 1 is buy it with less money. Okay, use no money. And the thing is I could have been broke and had a couple credit cards and did those, what do they call, the balance transfer things, where I could have wrote myself a check, put it in my account, and used that money. Now I need to owe the credit card, but I would have had like almost a year of interest free to go off of, and then I could pay it back off the cash flow if I wanted to. So I could have bought this with no money at all out of my pocket, and I could have used the tenant income to pay those credit cards off. Get that? So Grant Cardone says no money down doesn't exist. Well, it doesn't really exist because you're using somebody's money, but you always want to use somebody else's money when you can, because if you use somebody else's money to buy a deal, the return on investment is infinity because you didn't use your own money. Okay? You used 0 and you got a return off of it, so you have an infinite return. All right? So we're going to take a quick break. I'll be back in like a second. And then we're going to take a look at how single family homes work. All right, so let's talk about single family homes. So here's the deal with single family homes, and this is why people screw up with single family homes. And Grant Cardone says, don't buy them, because if you buy them and it goes vacant, then you got a mortgage to pay and you don't have any income coming in. That's correct. But if you have 18 single family homes and one goes vacant, you have 17 other single family homes paying the mortgages, right? So everything can scale up. So he buys the commercial apartment complexes. I like to buy single family homes in multifamily because right now in Pittsburgh they're appreciating faster. So I'm making money off appreciation. I'm making more money off appreciation than I am off of cash flow. So you can buy multiple single family homes. You just got to play your cards right or you're going to end up screwed. All right, and I'm going to show you how to budget correctly. Number 1, know what you're doing as far as maintenance goes and the condition of the property goes. Get a home inspector in there and home inspectors are just in Pennsylvania, they're just like certified people that really don't have to know anything about a house. So get a contractor in there with you, with the home inspector, looking at stuff, and use your brain. If something doesn't look right, it probably isn't right. Okay, and then ask your contractor about it. But what you want to do is you want to find a property, you want to find a house where you can buy it, and you can buy it and put some money into it, or not. You might not have to put any money into it, but you want it to be able to work out where if you want to be able to cash flow off it. I like the cash flow off of them. So I'm going to buy a single family home that I can cash flow a little bit off of, and I'm going to make sure that I have reserves in the bank account, so when the poo-poo hits the fan, you got some money to pay for repairs. And I've learned the hard way. You talk to Sasha, our property manager, like I'm still dealing with crap from 3 years ago that popped up on my properties that I wasn't prepared for. I didn't have the money put away, and I had to learn the hard way to make sure I got my maintenance reserve separated and saved up. So here's what we're going to look at: single family homes, and we're going to look at a single family home deal that we got going on right now. We're going to be closing on it in a week, less than a week maybe. So this is a property near Pittsburgh we're buying. We're paying $25,000 for it. Paying $25,000 for it, and our closing costs are going to be, I don't know, something like $3,000. So we'll have $28,000 invested in the purchase of the property. We're going to need between $20,000 and $30,000. I estimated 20. My partner estimated $30,000 of rehab or renovations or cosmetic updates or whatever you want to call it. We're going to have to do this property. We got the fruit cellars caving in. We're going to have to either rebuild that or put in wall anchors. We already have a quote from the owner on that. We're going to, we ballparked it. We each ballparked it. Our numbers were accurate as to the quote. So we got to rebuild that wall. We got to update the bathroom, update the kitchen. And we're talking about, we're doing kind of rental grade upgrades. So the bathroom, if we can get away with the tub surround that's already in there, we're just going to clean it up, recaulk it, and use it. We're going to clean up the bathroom, make it look more trendy, but we're going to use lower grade, durable stuff. We're not going to go in there and put marble tile down. Okay, we want durable stuff that looks trendy, looks modern, and is going to make this, we buy in C grade areas typically, and then we'll do an above market finish on it, and then we're going to look for a little bit above market rate rent or even market rate rent. So we're going to have a higher quality product, we're going to have better than the competition product, and then we're going to rent it out for probably right around what the competition rents. And that ensures that we're going to be able to rent it fast, and we're going to be able to get a good tenant for it, because we're going to have more tenants that want to compete for it. So that's what we're going to do this place. It need bathroom update, kitchen update, fresh paint, pull out the carpet, clean up the floors. We're not going to refinish the floors. It's hardwood underneath the carpet. We're just going to clean them up. Okay. It needs exterior paint. Pretty much the whole house needs painted on the exterior, and it needs some patching around the chimney. That's kind of it. It might need a little stoop built outside the back door too. So we're planning on doing all that for under $30,000. So we're going to say worst case scenario, 30 grand. So we'll have $58,000 tied into it total, and we are doing this with cash. For the most part, most of this money is going to be borrowed money though, so it's going to be either private money that we're paying like a bridge loan type 7% interest on. It's interest only, or we can use hard money on it or whatever. It's going to work out where we pretty much break even, or we don't have very much money invested at all. I'll show you the best case scenario for it. So we're going to have that spent. We want it to, best case scenario, we want it to ARV at $75,000. So I'm going to just put that over here. So that's what our ARV we want to have on it. which means we'll be able to refinance for $60,000. So we're out 58. We're going to gain 60, and it's probably going to cost us like maybe $2,000 or more for the refinance. So really, we're going to end up like breaking even here, but that ends up being like a net zero. But what's going to happen is we're going to put that 58 grand out, and then we're going to get the 60 back when we refinance it. So we're going to be able to pay off our debts and everything. And you know, my partner and I might be out at like a couple $1,000s to buy this place. So we might be out of pocket $2 grand, and we have a place that's going to be pulling in. Our goal is $850 a month. So if we're pulling in $850 a month, we're going to cash flow about $100 a month on it, after debt service, after all expenses. All right. So that's how that works on a single family home. We're going to be able to cash flow on it. We're going to have a rehab property that's in really good shape. It's going to be above market, and we're going to have a good tenant in there. All right. And then what we do to be safe is we're estimating, when we buy a place, we're estimating for at least 10% of our gross rents to go towards maintenance reserve. So if we're renting it for $850 a month, $85 a month go into a maintenance reserve account. I have another video on this, so if you want to check out the video, it's called Income Streams of a Millionaire, or Millionaire Cash Flow. It'll show you how you want to have your account set up. You want to have an operating account and a reserve account, and you put your maintenance reserve in the reserve account. It's also a good idea to start with a couple grand in the reserve account to begin with, just for surprises, right? So if you start with some money in there and you put that 10% in, and you have a property that's totally renovated and everything's like good, you're going to be able to build up a reserve over time. And then if you run into the furnace kicks the bucket 5 years from now, you got money in there to fix the furnace, okay? Or if it goes vacant, we calculate between a 5 and 7% vacancy loss. On this one, I think we calculated 5.5. We typically run 3.5 on the properties we manage, so we figure 5.5 is a worst case scenario. So with 5.5, if it goes vacant, we have that money put in the maintenance reserve, and we pull out of that 5.5% that we put in the maintenance reserve, and we're going to use that to turn over the property, okay? So that's how you make sure that when it goes vacant, you still have money to deal with it. Like, what you don't want to do is have zero, a big goose egg in your account, and then the furnace kicks the bucket. Because then you're trying to do a refinance or something like that to get money, and the bank's going to look at it and say, well, it's not even working. This investment is not even working, so why would we give you money on it? So you don't want to be in that scenario. You want to have the money stashed away so you can do the work, and you want to be able to, like when you're refinancing, you want to do it like when you don't need the money is when you should be refinancing, not when you do need the money. All right? So I hope that makes sense. If you like this video, like, thumbs up down below, subscribe, click on the bell notification so you can get notified on more videos that I post as I post them. And check out the links that I got below here, because I have links to some of the best books that I've read that help with mindset on investing and knowledge on investing, real estate sales, and just business mindset in general. And then check out my Patreon link below. I do coaching for real estate sales agents, $10 a month for group coaching. Super cheap. You're not going to find that anywhere else. We give away free stuff. I got expired mailer and for sale by owner contracts that we gave away for $10 a month. Okay? So those are on Patreon. $100 a month for team building coaching. I have a team that closes 100 deals a year, has done that for like the last 7 years. I'll show you how to team build. That's group coaching for $100 a month, and then one-on-one coaching on either real estate sales, team building, or real estate investing. One-on-one coaching is $1,000 a month, and that's personal one-on-one. If you live near me, I'll meet you in person. So hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for coming. See you again soon.